What if the Archons in Genshin Impact got turned into boss battles, and we had to fight them? What would their boss fight look like? What would be their faces, arenas, abilities, and maybe, would they even summon allies to assist them in our duel? Today, we're going to discuss about that, and I'm honestly very proud of what I came up with. Let's begin. For our duel against Venti, I gave him 3 phases, and I thought the area near his statue would be a great arena. For the first part, he'll be on the ground, casually shooting arrows at us, sometimes summoning a skyward sonnet at the player, dealing area of effect damage. His attacks are, using his elemental burst, Wind Grand Ode, that sucks in the player, making it harder to dodge and move. He can play a small melody with his harp, that unleashes musical notes, that hones in on the player. Venti can also sometimes teleport, and then camouflage himself with the wind, making it very hard to see him, and also increasing his movement speed. To counter this, you need to apply an elemental reaction on him, triggering Swirl, that makes Venti be visible again, and removes his buffs. When Venti's health is almost depleted, he summons multiple tornadoes, and also transforms himself into one that the player has defined. Activate Swirl with any element on the tornadoes, and keep repeating the process until you find the imposter and hit Venti. This triggers his second phase, where he summons a giant wind current that takes both of you to the sky, where he is the home field advantage. You are forced to fight while gliding, but you also receive the projectile mechanic, although a lot less weaker compared to when Venti was helping. You thought it was a face-off against you too, but you thought wrong, as Venti quickly flees away and calls his trusted friend, D. Valen, to fight you instead, while he rides in his back as moral support. The dragon's onslaught will basically be the same as his actual attacks in the game. He summons meteors, unleashes his powerful air breath attacks, quickly flies towards you, that leaves little reaction time, and slashes or bites the player, depending on your position. Venti wouldn't be completely useless, as he sometimes sucks you in a certain area, making it harder to move, and sings a short ballad that continually heals his pet dragon, so you better eliminate him quick. After you defeat his pet, and he falls to the ground, this is where the third phase begins. Venti, surprised at your strength, and knowing he absolutely has no chance of winning, decides to go for the second best option, and tries to flee away, but you manage to catch up to him. It then turns into a timed battle, where your goal is to defeat Venti, and make him fall to the ground, before 1 minute, or else he escapes, and you lose. He won't do any damage to you, nor do you even have a health bar, just shoot enough projectiles at him, before 1 minute. Careful, he's extremely nimble, quickly changing his movement, teleporting everywhere, and even going invisible. When you eventually do enough damage, before the time is up, Venti becomes too weak to fly anymore, and he drops to the ground, making you be victorious, and win this boss fight. I tried to showcase in this battle, that speed and agility are his strengths, and that he also knows when to give up, if the competitor is too strong, so that's why I made that the third phase. For the next Archon, Zhongli, I gave him 3 phases, but it's only technically 2, and for the arena, I placed it in the Gyun Stone Forest. For the first phase, at the start, he doesn't think you are worthy of an opponent, so he commands Xiao and Ganyu to fight for him instead, and gives them a strong shield as a small assistance. He will also randomly summon giant pillars at the ground that sometimes retracts or extends, and after a while, he fills the entire arena with lava. You have to jump quick into one of his pillars, or else you will get turned to ash. Ganyu continually deals cryo-charged shots at the player, which deals area of effect damage, while Xiao quickly dashes around the arena, needing high reaction time and pattern recognition to evade his attacks. When Zhongli unleashes the lava, Xiao will swiftly plunge the pillars that you were standing on, causing it to break, and you to fall, so the player better watch out and react fast. The 2 of them also receive less damage from your attacks, because of Zhongli's shield, but after eventually weakening them enough, the second phase happens. Zhongli, finally realizing you are worthy after all, commands the 2 adeptus to retreat, wanting to face you himself. He then unleashes some of his power, him now looking like a half-human, half-dragon creature. His attacks are summoning giant meteors from the sky that petrifies the player for a second, if hit. He can give eyes to random rocks that suddenly becomes alive and tries to attack the player, looking like giant golems. He has the usual slash, pound, and stomp attack that the Primo Geo Bishop also has. He sometimes throws a giant spear at the player that gets harder to dodge the farther you are from him, encouraging close combat. This entire fight, he has a strong shield that you have to destroy first before you can even damage him. Physical attacks, doing the highest amount of damage to it. He restores the shield after a few minutes, so if he has 1 health left, but he manages to regain his shield, you have to destroy it first, before dealing that 1 damage. As his health is almost gone, he transforms into a boulder, where geo-resonance waves travel, needing to jump over it, to avoid. After completing that jump rope, it's time for his 3rd phase. The boulder suddenly erupts open, and out comes a giant, full dragon version of Zhongli. He requests for the blessing of the god of dust, and summons a sandstorm, making it harder to see. His attacks are the same as the 2nd phase, but strongly enhanced. Instead of meteors, it's giant spears that fall a lot faster and deal more damage, but no petrify. His dashes and pounds are more unexpected, as you can't visibly see him because of the dust until he's up close to you. Instead of golems, 2 hands made of geo are trying to damage you, and slow but powerful fossils are hurled towards the player, though you can reflect or parry them. To defeat this phase, you have to reflect enough fossils and make them hit the 2 hands until they are fully out of health, and Zhongli loses control of them. When the hands are down, you need to time it perfectly and throw both of the hands into the flying Zhongli to be victorious. If you miss, another pair of hands will appear that you have to destroy again. Repeat the process until you hit Zhongli with 2 geo hands, and you win. I had to be really creative here, as Geo isn't very flashy and doesn't have any interesting reactions to work with. Also, I wanted to give him the personality of how he was during the Archon War, being ruthless and benevolent. For the next Archon, the Raiden Shogun, we already basically have her as a boss in the game, and the moves would be exactly the same. Our battle in the Archon quest would be the 1st phase, while the actual boss fight in the game would be the 2nd phase. The only thing I would change is I want Miko to also appear as well, but she doesn't fight or assist Raiden at all. Imagine if she's just in a corner, saying insults to us the entire time, dealing emotional damage, the most powerful of all types of damage. For our final and most recent Archon, we have Nahida. She herself said that she isn't much of a fighter, so I thought of something unique for her boss fight. This was also heavily inspired by Omega Flowey from Undertale. She has only 1 phase, and the arena of the battle would occur at her sanctuary. The camera of the fight would be similar to Storm Terror, only being able to move left or right to dodge attacks. Nahida, using her knowledge, created an organism, mecha, type of thing, that will do the battling for her, while she's the one piloting it. Her attacks are quickly slashing either the left or right side of the screen, or slashing the entire arena, needing to jump to avoid it. Using her charged attack consecutively, though it has a longer casting time, allowing you to react and avoid being selected. Quickly summoning vines in the player's direction, leaving very little room for reaction. Being photographed by her, that only has a small radius, but deals a huge amount of damage if hit. Making trees grow into a certain part of the arena, having less room for movement, that gets removed after a while. Hope you reach the larger area, as you will definitely get it by her other attacks if not. Her last attack is randomly planting flowers with various effects to the arena. If wolf hooks are planted, you take damage every time you land while jumping. If windwheel asters are planted, you get weakly pushed into certain directions, and if calla lily is planted, you get affected by hydro, triggering the bloom reaction when you get hit by her attack. To damage her, you need to attack her plant parts when they are visible. As you are about to defeat her and gain victory, she unleashes her trump card and resets the entire match. This is where the Sword of Phase 2 begins, as she reveals a new ability, Save and Load. While fighting, she can randomly save points in your match, and when loaded, it will go back to that exact moment she saved. She will now also start combining her attacks, so would your reaction time and pattern recognition be good enough? You also have to defeat her in a certain time, because if you take too long, she will get bored and control your character, forcing an elimination. After depleting your health again, she doesn't reset this time, and you win. That is all my made-up boss fights for our favorite Archons. What do you guys think about them? How would you turn them into a boss, or perhaps you had an idea for a different character? Comment down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe and like if you ended up enjoying this video, as I put a lot of effort into it. Bye.